Wait, hold on. I forgot the chair.
Which one?
The dungeon.
Don't get caught in the dungeon.
Works out.
Make sure my
You really did it. I don't even know. Skills.
All set? Good evening, board. Will you please stand? Need you all to raise your right hand. You solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Connecticut, and that you'll faithfully discharge, according to law, your duties as members of the Southington Board of Education to the best of your ability, so help you God.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. I'd like to call the meeting to order at this time and ask our students to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if we could, I'd like to take a moment to honor a couple folks who have recently passed and had served in the past in Southington Public Schools. Joanne Monaco passed away on October 24th. Joanne held several secretarial positions in the Southington Public Schools from 1986 until her retirement in 1998. And Angela Orsini passed away on November 13th. Angela began at Southington High School in 1954, where she taught French and was the chair of the Language Arts Department before retiring in 1992. So if we may, please take a moment of silence. Thank you. So congratulations to everyone who was either newly elected or re-elected. Opening the meeting this morning, or this evening, I'm sorry, I'd like to call for nominations of chairpersons for the Board of Education. The way it works is folks who are nominated, we have them on the ballot, so to speak. It does not need to be seconded. And we will do a roll call for those who are nominated, and the person with the majority votes will be the officer of that position. So nominations at this time for chairperson. James?
All right. Just wanted to say it's good to be back. Right. Thank you all for coming out here to show your support for us. And I do want to say thank you to all the voters that put us in this spot. I think we can all probably share that message with all of you here. And also, I don't really see Missy or Bob Brown, but thank you for the past 2 years and all the hard work you've done for the Board of Ed during your last term. So having said that, the person who I nominate today is someone who I've known for over 2 years, someone who I've served with on the prior term, a well-respected individual in this community, a friend and a fellow Republican. This person was elected again on the belief that they would hold strongly to our Republican values, to do what's right for this board, for this town, and for our children. And I trust that this person will do that. Many concerned parents have told me that we should place great importance on the many challenges that we face as a Board of Education over the next 2 years. And while we are all leaders in our own right, we must have a chairperson that will bring leadership to the Board of Education, that will listen to all points of view, be collaborative, completely transparent, inclusive, and always with the goal of providing students an education that focuses on individual achievement with 21st century skills. The voters spoke clearly on November 2nd that they trust us to lead the Board of Education in partnership with our administration, our staff, and our parents to deliver on our commitments. It is my distinct honor to nominate Colleen Clark for chairperson of the Board of Ed.
Any other nominations at this time? Okay, Mrs. Blanchard, roll call.
Mrs. Anastasia,
Yes.
Mr. Bashevsky,
That is a solid yes for me.
Mrs. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Mr. Charnowski,
Yes.
Mr. Darrenowski,
Yes.
Mr. O'Shana,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mrs. Clark.
Mr. Medancy, may I say something?
You
now?
sure can.
Oh, thank you. To my fellow board members, I had to write something down because obviously this is a very emotional moment for me. Oh, geez. I am truly humbled by your support, and I am honored to be your chair and your spokesperson. To my family who has supported me for these many years, my husband Eric, my sons Travis and JJ, thank you and I love you. And thank you for being here, guys. Even though Travis just got locked out of his house tonight and had to speed here. Is the dog in the car? Just asking. Oh, okay. I just wanted to check because I thought the dog was going to be in the car. And to the Southington community, I commit to you that our work here on the board will always keep what's doing best for children in the front and center of everything that we do. Thank you. Okay, so now it's my turn. I would like to call for nominations for the vice chair.
I nominate Joe Bachowski for vice chair.
Are there any other nominations? Mrs. Blanchard, would you do a roll call vote, please?
Anastasia,
Yes.
Mr. Bashevsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Mr. Charnowski,
Yes.
Mr. Darrenowski.
Yes.
Mr. O'Shana.
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark.
Yes. Congratulations.
I am absolutely humbled that the voters put their level of trust in what we're bringing to the Board of Education, bringing those proper education of our students with the 21st century skills that are needed today. And certainly today's a perfect example of what we need in our workforce and everything else. So I look forward to working with my fellow board members, and it's great to be back. I'm going to miss Bob and Missy, to say the very least. They were very valuable members and brought an amazing process to what we do. But here's to another 2 years of working with great people. So thank you.
Thank you. And now I would like to open the floor for nominations for board secretary.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to nominate Ms. Anastasio to be our secretary. I've known Dawn many years here in town. There's no one more deserving of a role that requires very good attention to detail and great record keeping. So she's second to none. So
Okay. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, Mrs. Blanchard?
Mr. Bashevsky,
yes.
Carmody,
Yes.
Mr. Carson,
Yes.
Charnowski,
Yes.
Mr. Darrenowski.
Yes.
Mr. O'Shana,
Yes.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mrs. Clark,
Yes.
Mrs. Anastasia.
Yes.
Congratulations. All right. Okay, if you don't want to. So congratulations to the new board members. Welcome. Just a little reminder that anything that you do, you work through the superintendent with copies to the board chair, but we're going to go over that on Saturday. So for now, Mr. Medancy, can we recess for 5 minutes? Is that allowed?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So we can say hello and goodbye to our families. Okay?
Thank you.
So recess for 5.
A lot of items.
Learn quickly not to take the bait because
Evening. Say who's going to make a motion to move. Is everybody back?
I know I got them.
Okay. Everyone's back? Mr. Oshana, I believe you had a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to move item 9B to 5A.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Terrific. 5, 9. Okay. Now I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes of October 28th, 2021.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, now it's time. Let me see. I have to get used to this list. So, okay. It's time for communications from our student representatives. Students?
Point of order.
Yes.
we just
What did I skip?
We have 5A, which we need to.
Oh, duh. Duh, I moved it up and didn't look. Okay, so 5 item, I know, I'm very nervous. In case you were wondering, I am very nervous. I promise I will get better as time goes on. It's the approval of the out-of-state overnight field trip.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Move to, for the Board of Education to approve the field trip request as presented by the administration.
Okay.
Second?
Second. Do I have any questions from anyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved. So that's all set. Okay. Now we can go to communications from the student representative. Students?
Good evening, Board. For the new board members, I'm going to introduce myself as Ethan Stilluri. I am a senior this year, as well as the 2022 class president. We look forward to working with the new board this year.
Good evening, Board. My name is Jaleesa Vincent. I'm also a senior at SHS and the class of 2022 secretary. I've held my position as student representative since my junior year, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you and some of you again.
Hello, Board, and congratulations to all of you. My name is Ange McCacci, and I am currently a junior at Southington High School, and I will begin our section tonight with the sports report. The Blue Knights' traditional Thanksgiving Day football game versus Cheshire High School is at Southington's Fontana Field Stadium next Thursday, November 25th at 10 a.m. The football team enters the final regular season game with a 7-2 record, and a victory may qualify them for the CIAC Class LL Football Championships starting on Tuesday night, November 30th, with the site to be determined. Congratulations to all the other 8 Blue Knights fall varsity sports teams, as each one of them has qualified for a CIAC postseason championship competition. A special kudos to our fall cheerleaders and dance team and their support for athletics. The annual Powder Puff Home Girls football game returns this year, this Saturday, November 20th, at Fontana Field Stadium, when the Lady Knights host the Terriers of Rocky Hill High School. Kickoff for a game is at 6 p.m. The upcoming winter sports season begins with preseason practice sessions starting the week after Thanksgiving. And lastly, all our Blue Knights fall student athletes and their respective coaches thank the Board of Education and the entire Southington community for their support during this 2021 season, and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from any board members? No?
We have a few more items.
I'm
as well.
sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I thought you were
No,
done.
that's okay.
Okay.
The Southington High School Robotics Team 195, the Cyber Knights, attended the first in-person VEX robotics competition in 2 years at Ridgefield High School. None of our 5 teams had a losing record, and they made the playoffs, as well as Team D making it to the quarterfinals. On Veterans Day, Team 195 attended the flag ceremony in collaboration with the American Legion on the town green, as well as holding their 8th annual Veterans Dinner on November 20th at the American Legion.
Continuing on, Wednesday, November 10th, the high school had their annual Veterans Day concert. At this concert, veterans from the Southington community were thanked for their service and saluted. It was a touching tribute, and we were happy to be able to have this again this year. Parent-teacher conferences at the high school occurred this Wednesday. Teachers, parents, and guardians used this time to talk about their students' performance in the classroom. The elementary and middle school conference will be occurring on Monday and Tuesday of next week. The class of 2022 is holding a Spirit Week leading up to the homecoming dance. Students participated in Spirit Days such as America Monday, Character and Celebrity Day, Favorite Holiday, and tomorrow we will have a Seniors versus Junior Blue versus White Day. We are all very excited and have had a blast with the fun Spirit Week ideas, as well as some good photo ops for the Instagram. Homecoming is this Friday, tomorrow at the high school from 6:30 to 9:30. Students are extremely excited to the point where we blew through our 300 student capacity within the first 48 hours of sales.
Awesome.
And moving on to our school report, Darnowski School had a town meeting with our classrooms developing a school character for the year. All students were able to give their input into the school character electronically. The character will be displayed in our lobby. The two students earned a star on the Heroes board this month for their contribution to the Southington community. Darnowski had their school-wide celebration October 29th. Students enjoyed a picnic with their classes. We also had our students and staff dress up in costumes that day. Our kindergarten students had their annual parade through the school as well.
From Kelly School, while we at Kelly School were unable to hold our annual Veterans Day breakfast and recognition program in school, Kelly staff and students still wanted to honor the many brave men and women who serve and have served our country in the United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Coast Guard. So we decided to try something new. We invited veteran parents, grandparents, family members, friends, and neighbors of our school community to join us for a drive-through recognition celebration. On the afternoon of Monday, November 15th, Kelly School students and staff lined our school driveway dressed in red, white, and blue to welcome veterans from our Kelly School family and community. Every student was waving an American flag. Many created patriotic headbands, while others held signs saying thank you to our veterans. We had patriotic music playing loudly as close to 50 cars drove through over the course of 40 minutes. Some enjoyed it so much they decided to have a drive-through a second time. Our STEPS ambassadors presented each veteran with a small gift bag at the end. It was an incredibly enthusiastic event, but most adults had trouble holding back tears through it all.
Some future items that are upcoming at the high school include the agricultural science program is getting ready for their annual wreath and poinsettia sale. Students from the horticulture classes, along with select others, craft these beautiful pieces themselves and have been learning a lot through the process. The Southington High School Drama Club's fall production will be taking place on December 3rd and 4th at 7 p.m. both dates. The play that is being performed is called Last Gasp, which is a hilarious and heartbreaking story about a man who needs to choose between his new and old love. The cast and crew have been working incredibly hard, and we would like to highlight the director of the show, Tim Nivison, who is only a junior.
And our last topic, I know we gave a lot tonight, which is unusual, but
Good. No, it's good.
SHS was approached by Lieutenant Colonel John DeMello of the Air Force. He is also the Secretary of the Air Force International Affairs and Country Director for Republic of Korea and Mongolia. He is a graduate of SHS and would like to donate an American flag that flew over the U.S. barracks in Afghanistan on the 10th anniversary of 9/11 to a current SHS history class on November 22nd. The three of us would like to thank him for his service and the American flag donation. We look forward to seeing this flag in the SHS. And that is all.
Anyone have any questions? That was a great report. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Before we have communication from the public, I'd like to read a statement. The Southington Board of Education offers communication from the public portion of the agenda as an opportunity for individuals to share their views regarding school operations and programs which are a concern to them. The board listens carefully to all comments. It is important to note that communications from the public portion is not an interactive question and answer session, nor is it a time to make personal complaints about any staff or employee of the Board of Education. As we now have a newly elected board and board chairperson, it is important to clarify how the communications from the public portion of the meeting will be conducted. Board Bylaw 9325 provides that 3 minutes may be allotted to each speaker. There is no provision for speakers to yield time to another speaker, so please be aware that each individual speaker will be able to comment for up to 3 minutes. Emails will not be read into the record, but will be available to board members prior to the meeting and will be referenced in the minutes when appropriate. If questions are posed by speakers, those questions may be addressed by the chair or the superintendent at the discretion of the chair during communications from the board or administration or at a later date. Thank you. So I open the floor now to communication from the public. If you could please, when you come up, it's 3 minutes, if you would sign your name and address on the sheet that is next to the podium. And Mr. Bashevsky is going to be doing the timing for me. Good.
Hi. Katie Wade, 39 Madeline Lane. I'd like to start by congratulating all of you. I believe anyone who would volunteer their time like this must care about our students. On a personal note, while I understand some of you do not send your children to our public schools, I also know some of you moved to Southington for the great schools, just like my family did. I met Jasper Williams and his family for the first time on Election Day. I hope it wasn't the last time, because it turns out our kids go to school together. I'm on the board of the PTO at their school, but I'd like to be clear I'm speaking for myself and not on behalf of any organization. I coordinate the parent volunteers as well as coordinating a program that helps families in need within our school community. I know we're all busy people, but I now know you're a person who wants to be involved in our schools, so I'd like to invite you to come and find out about the work the PTOs do and the amount of fundraising they must do to cover expenses that the current budget cannot. The money that the PTOs raise doesn't always get to go to what may be considered extras by some, like playground structures to replace broken or outdated equipment at elementary schools, or buses for field trips, things that the current budget will not provide. We also cover what, until I had school-age children and got involved at their school, would have assumed was covered in good districts, like books for classrooms, the bookshelves, the rugs our kids sit on at story time, and necessary, not extra technology items. This is by no means an exhaustive list. I'd love to encourage any members of the board to find out what parents and teachers are doing to fill the gaps of our budget and support our students. When it comes down to it, I think all of us, and I'm sure people will let me know if I'm wrong, want this board focused locally on making sure our schools are graduating students who are competitively college or career ready. With some of the lowest per pupil spending in the state, that takes all of us working together. I really hope you're all here because you love our schools and the kids who attend them. I hope you'll all be looking for ways to bring our kids and our community together in all the places that we can. So good luck, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Women. Yeah, it's our policy says we change it. We have to change it. We can't change it tonight.
Hi, everyone. We're from Bellberg School. This is Katie Pagano, Kate Stephanie, and Katie Princehorn. We are first grade teachers at Bellberg, and our social worker, Melissa Volpe. We just wanted to share with everybody something exciting our students are doing. We have in first grade a social studies unit on holidays, and we wanted to incorporate learning about how to give back to the community and how to learn and learning about who our community helpers are. So we thought we would run a school-wide food drive. To get the students excited, we reached out to one of our favorite members of the community, Valentine the Clown, and she offered to celebrate with the grade level that collected the most food. In addition to that, each first grader wrote a letter to our community helpers, the Board of Ed members, central office staff, police department, fire department, highway department, and told them what we were doing and asked if they would help participate in collecting food for Southington Bread for Life. We're going to leave our box that the students decorated here in hopes that the members of the Board of Ed and central office staff wouldn't mind donating and helping us out. I have a letter that I'd like to read from one of our first graders. I did get parent permission. His name is Wes. Dear community helpers, the first graders are doing a food drive. There are people who are out there who are starving. Can you help us do the food drive? You can bring these in: cereal, pretzels, and at last, you can bring pirate booty. Love, your friend Wes. So from Wes, from the rest of the students and all the staff at Thalberg, thank you for all your support with our students, and thank you in advance for your donations.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you.
Hello. Hello, my name is Travis Riccio. I'm a junior at Southington High School. Today I bring with you a few concerns respectfully. In my understanding, the Southington Board of Education has not passed CRT yet, critical race theory. Today I write this message on November 4th. I was concerned today with my CIA class, Citizenship and Action at the CCP level. This class is supposed to be focused on politics and the citizenship of Americans. Today was different. Today we did an assignment called Who Me Biased. This assignment consisted of 5 videos talking about how we refer to white people as racist, prejudiced, and biased. It made it very clear that we are racist and prejudiced towards Black and Hispanics. In the first video called Check Our Bias to Wreck Our Bias, the woman Dolly Koff conducts a study where she sends 6,500 professors a fake email, all the same email with different names, says names with different cultures and different genders. So basically, she comes up with stereotypical Black names, Asian names, white names, female names, and male names. Sends a letter and feels that the study shows the most professors responded to white males because they are not oppressed. This woman made a bunch of stereotypical names and sent them off in those emails, and trust me, a lot of names sound a certain ethnicity, but they aren't. Now, this is another concern. We have multiple issues with this video. We have it saying white men are racist and get better treatment, and we have a stereotypical woman teaching a class. The rest of the videos go on to say how white men get everything and everyone else is oppressed. To me and some other classmates, this made us extremely uncomfortable, feeling attacked and unsafe because of our race and gender we cannot control. This made me feel unsafe and unwanted in the classroom environment. Here's my concern in 2 or more board meetings, especially the meeting held on August 12th, 2021. Former Board of Education member Bob Brown and former Board of Education Chairwoman Terry Carmody both stated that CRT will never show that white people are bad and how they are not the problem. My assignment says differently. This assignment was to show how us as whites are all racist and biased, which is not true. I stand strong against racism. Racism does not belong in our country nor the great community of Southington. I don't feel we should learn about why people believe white people are better than everyone and everyone else is oppressed. We are all equal and American. We all bleed blood. Everyone is the same. I strongly stand against CRT. It should not be forced on students. To learn, it should be an elective class. CRT is worse than you say it is, Mrs. Carmody. I know that because I'm experiencing it firsthand and it makes me feel unsafe and uncomfortable. Fighting to have CRT is uncomfortable and concerning because it is a very sensitive topic. I want to go back to my freshman year, where at a home football game at Fontana Field, I was punched by an African-American individual for not giving him food. He turned the situation around, calling me, saying that I called him the N-word, which later on administration investigated into and found out by his friends and his own cousin, who was standing right there, that that word never came out of my mouth. The kid was given a slap on the wrist for assaulting me.
We're not.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jeez, that kid's tall. Pat Tavolazzi, 99 Westbrook Road. This kid was given a slap on the wrist for assaulting me, making me feel unsafe. That would have happened. What would have happened if I had said it, though? We know because of my race and gender, I would have been in a lot more trouble over an offensive word than this kid lying and physically assaulting me. Let's then go to my sophomore year, where randomly my phone blows up and two random girls who I've never talked to post TikToks about me and cyberbullying me. They posted me very hurtful and mean things about me, calling me a racist and many other offensive things. This situation was also brought to the administration first, tried, and they failed to bring it to the individuals. We contacted them again. This time they told me these girls will receive a punishment. I want to tell you, I soon found out that their punishment is 1 day out of school suspension. Seems like the school did their job. No, because one of those individuals was from Hartford and she was on a remote school. She then goes to post imagine suspending me for a day instead of that racist. Now let's go to the other girl. Administration had me meet with my vice principal, who's a female, the girl who cyberbullied me, who was a female, and a school resource officer who's a female, because Officer Valentine was in training. This meeting was just a little over 24 hours after the original post. In the meeting, all three women pinned up on me that it was my fault. I brought it up upon myself for wearing a political mask and occasionally a political shirt. There was no discipline for these girls that could affect them. I have a question for you. What happens if I said something offensive or racist? Reading news stories all the time, I can tell you what would happen. I would get expelled and my foreseeable future would go bye-bye, because of my race and my gender. But these people who have bullied me for years get a slap on the wrist. I feel that there is a double standard, and that CRT will make this worse and make people feel like me, unwanted and unsafe. Thank you. Can I reclaim my time, please, for going up again? I can use it all.
Yeah.
How many minutes, please?
She had a minute and 15 seconds left. That's fine.
I use 1 minute, thank you. I'll reclaim my 2, thank you.
Steve Balszewski, 191 Queen Street. And I just want to start by saying that was very disturbing to hear. The administration needs to do better going forward to deal with things like that. The previous board refused to take any action at all on critical race theory, despite claiming that they all opposed it. They refused to take a stand for local control of our schools, and they refused to even communicate with the people. Now the people have made a change. We have a new board, elected overwhelmingly by people who want CRT stopped and parental control over their own children's health care. And make no mistake, this change was made not out of any desire to give one party more players on the field than the other party, but by people in town who want kids to be able to breathe, have healthy social interactions, and be taught things like math and science, not taught to hate themselves and hate each other. You were elected with a mission statement, and you were given the seats on the board necessary to accomplish that mission. On Monday, in Flanders Elementary School, the 5th grade class was taken out of their learning to be forced to listen to lectures on, quote, social justice and equity. The school administration chose to wait until 10:41 p.m. on Sunday night to notify parents about this event taking place on Monday. Someone who waits until the dead of night to send the notification knows full well what they are doing is something wrong, which is why they send the notification at a time when most parents won't see it until after the lecture has already happened. That shows premeditation. It shows that the school administration knew that parents would not be okay with this and have no respect at all for parental sovereignty with their own children. It shows that the school administration believes that the children belong to them and they do not recognize parental sovereignty whatsoever. This is entirely unacceptable, and the board needs to take several steps immediately. Step 1, require that the curriculum be posted online, where it is easily accessible by parents. Step 2, require that teacher class plans be posted online, where they're easily accessible by parents. Step 3, require that a minimum of 72 hours notice be given to parents regarding any lectures or such events. Step 4, prohibit anyone in the school system from teaching that the United States, our founding documents, free market capitalism, national symbols and monuments, or any particular race and ethnicity are inherently and or systemically racist. In fact, anything that teaches kids to see skin color instead of seeing people should be banned. And step 5, institute a zero tolerance policy for anyone who violates the first 4 steps. You do these things and you're out the door, period. The previous board was one of talking. Let this board be one of doing. You were elected with a mission. Get it done and be able to come back to the people and say mission accomplished. Thank you and good luck to all of you as you move forward.
Hello, my name is Skylar Princehorn. I live on Windcrest Court in Southington, and I'm a junior at Southington High School. Tonight, I would like to address the issue imposed by those seeking to condemn or repeal the mask mandate in our schools. At SHS, it's not uncommon to see students and teachers complaining about the use of masks. It is understandable that masks are both uncomfortable and out of the norm. However, these masks are required on account of our child's safety. This week alone, I've had 3 classmates out due to COVID. The only thing keeping me from catching COVID, and the only reason transmission is lower within our schools, is due to the mask mandate. The Southington Health Department consistently cites that these cases are transmitted from outside of school. This mandate is not politically motivated, as it's an effort to secure the health of your children. According to the University of California, transmission of the disease decreases by 65% with the use of masks. With this knowledge, masks seem like a practicality. However, this has been trifled into a political debate, jeopardizing the safety of our staff and students. I would like to remind you all that as normalcy does creep back in, we are still in a global crisis. I find it extremely doubtful that many teachers or administrators who pledge student safety would see enforcing masks as a burden or disadvantage to their classroom. It's important to note that the new screen and stay policy is only made possible with the implication of masks due to their effectiveness. Removing this mandate would nullify this policy, increasing the number of quarantined students. Most teachers would not glorify the use of masks. However, they all value an in-person classroom over a virtual one. Viewing this as a partisan issue only strips school districts from their ability to ensure student safety. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Skylar.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Young of Berkeley Avenue. At a recent meeting, a board member stated that the reason that they wear a mask to the Board of Ed meetings, but not at other public indoor events, was to show support and solidarity with the teachers that are mandated to wear masks while in school. While I respect this person's right to decide if they wish to mask or not, I found it quite interesting that at no point did they mention that it was because of science or safety. Teaching our children virtue signaling with such key phrases as do your part or for the greater good, and my favorite, we are in this together, is not only dangerous rhetoric, but also a complete crock. We all see through this agenda when it comes to the rules for thee, but not for me mentality of people presumed to be in power. All parents want is just for our children to have that same luxury to be able to make the decision for themselves to mask in virtue or unmask in freedom. I would like to welcome the new board and congratulate returning members. I look forward to hearing from each of you about how you plan to support parents who are concerned about the mask mandates, vaccine clinics on school property, as well as curriculum matters. When my now 10th grader was entering 6th grade at DePaulo, Mr. Pepe was the principal there. And during our 6th grade orientation, he said something that at the time I didn't think much of, but now I think about quite often. I'm paraphrasing, but he said something to the effect of, parents, this 3-year middle school experience will go by faster than you realize. Soon the class of 2024 will be graduating, and even though your kids may seem more grown up and they may want space from parents, now is not the time to distance yourself. It's a crucial time to stay involved, present, and available as they navigate through some middle school changes. He was right. That time has flown by. He was also right about staying involved as a parent. And I want to express to the board that this is all these parents are trying to do week after week by attending these Board of Ed meetings. We are staying involved, we are staying vigilant, and we are not going away. We all just want what's best for our children, and nobody knows what's best for children better than their parents. We want to be supported by a board that respects us and will speak on our behalf and will put the best interests of our kids before federal funding. I pray that this new board will do just that, and I urge you to do the right thing so we can begin to repair the damage our children have been forced to endure due to the overreach, greed, and thirst for power from our governor. I must say that I am disappointed that as the first order of business tonight, you've chosen to shut down communication from concerned parents by restricting our abilities to voice our concerns. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Todd Ritchie from Chesterwood Terrace. I'd like to welcome all the new board members and thank you for your commitment to serve our public school children and community. My wife and I have corresponded with school administration, and my wife has spoken at most board meetings over the past 6 months. Although we only rarely receive responses from the prior board, we do appreciate that the superintendent has regularly responded to our inquiries based on information he has available to him and that he has sought after. Much of the focus of our commentary has been COVID-19 mitigation strategies in the schools and whether there is any independent thought or even scientific thought being applied by Southington school system officials and board members regarding these strategies, including, of course, the default masking strategy, but even more importantly, classroom ventilation. Our son is in kindergarten at Flanders, and we understand that the current COVID-19 mitigation strategies for students include indoor masking, hand washing, sanitizing, social distancing, running existing classroom ventilators, which are outdated, nonstop with air filters that are not rated for removal of virus-carrying particulates, and opening windows and doors to hallways to introduce additional outside air inflow. School administration and operations has confirmed that the heating and ventilation systems in the classrooms at Flanders, which are from the 1960s when the school was constructed, do not meet current American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers ASHRAE design and operating standards, and as such do not provide adequate air changes per hour to meet ASHRAE's and other nationally recognized public health organizations' healthy classroom criteria. This air ventilation and filtration deficiency at Flanders and other older schools in town existed pre-pandemic. For background, I am a professional civil engineer and board certified environmental engineer and often rely on guidance from the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, one of the federal government's largest scientific organizations. In a letter I previously submitted to the board, I referred to a study conducted by the EPA in April 2021 where EPA researchers rigorously tested masks and other PPE in EPA's laboratories. The EPA sought out to determine how effectively different materials can filter out potential virus-carrying particles from the air, whether popular do-it-yourself mask modifications work, and which disinfection methods work well for masks and other types of PPE like face shields and protective suits. In regard to cloth masks, most commonly worn by the public, including our school children, EPA concluded their study that only 26.5% of potential virus-carrying particles are blocked on average. Some may think that 26.5% removal effectiveness is great, but how come no one seems to be focused on where the majority, 73.5% of potential virus-carrying particles are going into the classroom airspace? Here's a copy of the EPA study. According to the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health Healthy Buildings website, quote, I quote, a paradigm shift to combat indoor respiratory infection, building ventilation systems must improve. There's a great disparity in the way we think about and address different sources of environmental infection. Governments have for decades publicized legislation and invested in food safety, sanitation, drinking water for public health purposes. However, airborne pathogens and respiratory infections, whether seasonal influenza or COVID-19.
Okay. Hi, my name is Jennifer Couture. I live at on Prospect Street, and I'm going to talk about masks also. This is a continuation of what Todd was saying. It's talking about correspondence with the school administration. Okay, it says, however, airborne pathogens and respiratory infections, whether the seasonal influenza or COVID-19, are addressed fairly weakly, if at all, in terms of regulations, standards, and building design and operation pertaining to the air we breathe.
In our correspondence with school administration, it was requested the current ventilation rate for Todd's son's classroom at Flanders. The response they received was there was essentially no way for the staff to calculate the airflow because the ventilators are old and the windows are supposed to be open due to COVID protocols. Although we are heading into the winter and the windows are most likely to remain closed. In subsequent response, they were provided a copy of the August 2020 Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health 5-step guide for checking ventilation in classrooms, and there were multiple scenarios in the guide based on different school mechanical system configurations, including example 2 on page 36, specific to use of unit ventilators and opening windows. In the guide, the target number of total air changes per hour for a healthy classroom is 5. If this cannot be achieved, the guide recommends increasing outdoor air when outdoor air temperatures allow, using high-efficiency filters on recirculated air if possible, and to add portable air cleaners with HEPA, which are high-efficiency particulate air filtration systems, to the classroom in addition to the high-efficiency filters existing if the existing mechanical equipment is not possible. You were also provided with a copy of that guide for your record. And according to a May 2021 report by the Johns Hopkins University Bloomberg School of Public Health Center for Health Security entitled School Ventilation, a vital tool to reduce COVID-19 spread, quote, school administrators and decision makers should purchase HEPA air filtration units to be placed in classrooms and common occupied spaces. Even if ventilation in a school already meets criteria current building standards, many do not. Additional air filtration from a portable device can help reduce the potential for SARS-CoV-2 transmission. Portable HEPA air filters are easy to use. HEPA filtration is a proven technology, and the units have the advantage of being always on. A quiet unit, or a combination of smaller units, can increase the number of air changes by at least 3 to 5 times in an 800 square foot classroom and can be purchased for about $500 and are less taxing on the electrical systems than a portable air conditioner. Increasing the number of air changes per hour may substantially reduce aerosol transmission risks. I believe over $4 million was granted to the town of Southington school system in the American Rescue Plan funding for the COVID-19 support and mitigation strategies, specifically including for long-lasting improvements as ventilation. Why can't older schools like Flanders with substandard mechanical systems be provided $500 per classroom to purchase HEPA filtration units? For 15 to 20 classrooms, this is $7,500 to $10,000, or 2% of the Southington ARP funding, according to Johns Hopkins. Okay, thank you.
Before I start, I think it's very unprofessional that you change the rules, that people can't use their time, because we all planned our speeches accordingly to the rules we're used to. We should have gotten notice that as of the next meeting, that change were to occur. So now we all look unprepared and we can't finish what we have to say, but we were prepared. So I guess you can start my 3 minutes now and I won't have enough time. I'm Kristen Ritchie from Chesterwood Terrace. Just to set the stage here, I'd like to remind everyone that we are in a state of emergency declared by Governor Lamont. Yet 3 of the most effective COVID mitigation strategies in school, as communicated to the public by the federal and state governments, appear to be unsatisfactory in our town. 1, contact tracing; 2, ventilation; 3, cleaning procedures. First, as for contact tracing, I would like you to know that when my family had COVID a few weeks ago, we received no contact tracing calls at all. We're still waiting for those calls. When I asked the state DPH why we did not, they referenced the local health department handles that. However, I have in writing from the interim health director for Southington that they are not contact tracing. Isn't contact tracing absolutely foundational to prevent the further transmission of COVID? The Southington Health Department doesn't seem to think so. Second, as for ventilation, continuing on from Todd's comments from before, according to 3 gold standard sources that were presented, it is clear that the most effective and recommended mitigant to COVID-19 transmission is to add HEPA filtration systems to classrooms where current ventilation is not adequate. Todd presented that according to the EPA, the vast majority of exhaled virus-carrying particles are not blocked by masks, 73.5%, and are entering the classroom airspace from each student and teacher.
He also provided scientific studies and recommendations regarding use of readily available air filtration equipment for classrooms with greater than 90% virus-carrying particle removal efficiency. Why would school administration rely on masking children to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 by such a small percentage, 26.5%, and simultaneously impose various adverse impacts to children's physical and mental health when air filtration equipment would provide much more effective mitigation of airborne virus-carrying particles and have only beneficial effects on the health of children? A school official stated that the following regarding our request to consider installing HEPA filtration units. Quote, with transmission rates in this school for all intents and purposes being non-existent, I could not responsibly recommend that we pursue this path. End quote. Why is our administration ignoring the guidance of the U.S. Department of Education, the CDC, ASHRAE, Harvard School of Public Health, Johns Hopkins School of Public Health, as well as common sense? I'll skip over the rest to get to my closing. I urge you to perform the recommended due diligence related to ventilation in our schools. I urge you to seek out more opportunities for our children to learn without mask distractions. This can be done while remaining in compliance with the State Department of Ed guidance. I respectfully request that this board send a delegate to the monthly State Board of Ed meetings at Hartford, which are open to the public, and use that public forum to raise questions and concerns you are receiving from parents at a summary level. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, I request that this board submit a formal communication to the Governor's Office, the Connecticut Department of Health, and the Department of Education requesting that the statewide mask mandate, as well as related distancing protocols in schools end, and that you retain control of your school's policy. I'm optimistic that this new board will lead us to better times. We have a fantastic superintendent, and I think you and we all are enthusiastic about your potential together. We are setting expectations high for you. We will be holding you accountable for your decisions. And ultimately, we look forward to thanking you for improving our children's school experiences. Thank you in advance for your service and dedication to our children and families.
Pat Tevelazzi, I'm taking my 2 minutes back at this point. I want to sum up for Todd what he was saying. In summary, remember, we are supposed to follow the science in this COVID-19 pandemic, and I have presented to you tonight with scientific information that is relevant to providing our children with healthier classroom environments. B, my wife and I have requested information regarding the current air exchange rate for our son's classroom at Flanders. As was discussed in the Harvard Public Guide and Johns Hopkins study, air change rates are critical to providing a healthy classroom and building for students, whether we are in the midst of a pandemic or not. See, as we enter the winter months, classroom windows will be mostly closed, eliminating supplemental ventilation into those classrooms that is much needed at an older school such as Flanders, and I might add, with their masks on. What is being done to offset this reduction in ventilation? Classroom HEPA air filtration units are warranted based on the science I've presented. Finally, we want our kids to be comfortable and learn in a healthy classroom, whether they are masked or unmasked. The time to address classroom ventilation issues in earnest was while schools were empty due to the COVID-19, which didn't happen. So it is now. We need to focus less on whether our students are wearing so-called filters on their faces and actually provide them with classrooms, with air filtration and ventilation that not only meets but exceeds industry standards for healthy classrooms. In E, we are hopeful that his new board can work together with the superintendent to prioritize the performance of due diligence around ventilation improvements, rather than passively relying on less elective and some controversial transmission mitigation methods. Thank you. That was Todd's words. And to finish up, congratulations to everybody on the board. We will keep coming. You'll keep hearing our voices. And I have lots more data that I'm gathering right now to present, and I may send it off to you earlier so you can think about it before we get here and maybe have an answer before we even have to bring it up. But thank you all for your time. Thank you to the new board. Promises made, promises kept. We'll remember.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Krasansky, 27 Hitching Post Drive. Before I start, I did also prepare a somewhat longer speech based upon how the other meetings were held. So if anyone would volunteer to help finish my speech after, I'd appreciate it. So I'll get through what I can. So this is in regards to the diversity and equity workshops that are being held in the schools. One was recently held at Flanders. I saw the announcement for it. The purpose is an effort to further equity, inclusion, and social justice. Can someone explain what this means to me? Every time I read about equity, inclusion, and social justice, it involves bashing certain groups by calling them privileged and making other groups out to be victims, saints, and martyrs. Of course, most of this is done for political purposes. Aren't we all just people, and do we need to be constantly segregated into different groups? Will the workshop that claims to focus on inclusion and diversity speak to our current cancel culture and the censorship that the news media, along with social media giants like Facebook and Twitter, engage in? Of course not, because the goal is not inclusion and diversity, but exclusion and groupthink. It is the exclusion of ideas that don't align with those belonging to the diversity, equity, and social justice crowd. It sounds like more CRT to me. It sounds more like the white privilege workshops, which were promoted by the Southington Public Schools by sending out emails to every parent in the district. Equity equals equality of outcome, not opportunity. Equity equals more opportunities, resources, money, etc. for some, but not others. Equity equals provide more benefits to certain groups of people, but not others to buy their votes. Equity is the opposite of equal opportunity. Equity is a poisonous word. It is anti-American, and it is communism. And I can speak about that because my wife comes from a communist country. I find it alarming that these equity workshops are being pushed on our elementary school kids. Why are they being pushed? What are you expecting to do with these workshops but further divide people? I've already requested my daughter be pulled out of these workshops. I had another parent who mentioned to me that she was keeping her daughter at home that day from school to avoid this indoctrination. Is this the result the board really wants? If you want to educate children properly, teach them about equality of opportunity, which everyone deserves, but not necessarily equality of outcome. We should get ahead in this country through our own efforts, not by being rewarded with extra benefits by the government because of some group that we belong to whose vote politicians are courting. Southington Public Schools needs to return its focus to academics, math, science, writing, reading. My understanding is that our test scores are not doing too well in these areas and can use some improvement. So instead of using the precious little time our kids are afforded for improving core academic skills, they are pulled out to be indoctrinated for political purposes. Students are being bullied or bullied in and outside of school for all kinds of reasons, and they don't need to be broken down into victim groups. If you want school kids to treat others like they want to be treated, so if anyone can finish, I would appreciate it. Down a phone? Yes. Okay, so let me show you. So you know how to scroll on, so these programs.
My name is Jamie Krisak. I live on Candlewood Lane. These programs make sense as they teach students to respect and behave kindly, all period. Students in these programs, to my knowledge, are not divided out into special interest groups and trying to claim the prize of being the most highly victimized. There is no political agenda here. So I call on the Southington Public Schools to abandon their involvement in politics and end these diversity workshops for the good of the entire community. This is my first Board of Ed meeting I've ever been to. My daughter is in first grade, so welcome to all the new board members. We moved here in 2019 knowing that the school systems were really great and the taxes were low, and so I'm really happy to see that the Republican momentum has continued, and I hope that our schools stay as wonderful as they have been. I'm a registered nurse, and my daughter at the end of last year started complaining to me that she was having a hard time breathing. I, of course, monitored her, and her lungs sounded fine, but her oxygen level has not been. It's been 95%. I took her to the doctor. She was negative for COVID. Her chest x-ray was fine, and the doctor told me it was probably behavioral. My daughter has no behavioral issues. Tonight before I left the house, she said to me, "Mommy, I can't breathe with or without a mask on." She is not a complainer. Our children should be able to sit 6 feet apart at their desks without a mask and learn. If they're safe enough to take their masks off and eat in the same room, and they're safe enough to take their masks off and play together where they are expending energy, probably using more of their energy to spit, cough, and laugh, and it's more of a risk for them outside without a mask to spread COVID, why is it not as much of a risk inside of the classroom? If they can sit at the desk and not be up and moving around and be 6 feet apart, there's no reason why they need to sit with a mask on they're not sitting there coughing and spreading their germs. So I am going to ask you to please consider removing the mask mandate. And I know that you have said before that this is not something in your power, that it is up to Governor Lamont, and he continues to extend his emergency powers despite there not being any emergency. So I hope that you will continue to fight for our parents and let us make the choice. And if people want their kids to wear a mask, then allow it. But for us who see the damage it is doing to our children, please allow us to unmask our kids. Thank you.
Susan Zabahansky, Working Street, Plantsville, Connecticut. I'd like to welcome all the new board members. We are looking forward to working with all of you. There's a few things as a parental advocate that I'd like to discuss that I would request from the new board. The first thing I'd like to request is that we have a special session where we can have questions and answers, like a question and answer session amongst the board members and the parents. I think that would help us understand some of your positions a little better, and maybe you understand our positions. The second thing that I'd like to discuss is the tenets of CRT. I am sure I can trust you guys when you say it's not in the curriculum, but I am asking that you guys propose policy, since you're saying it's not in the curriculum, that recommends the following 6 things. That we do not have any curriculum that teaches that America is irredeemably racist and founded on racist principles. That all white people are racist. That white people are oppressors. That non-white people are victims. That capitalism is racist. And lastly, that the only solution to past discrimination is present discrimination. So if we're saying that CRT is not being taught in the schools, and I know Mr. Oshana had brought up these tenets, I would like that we propose policy that these tenets will not be involved in our curriculum, and that there is a policy in place for any teacher who teaches any of these particular tenets. I think that would help alleviate the problem, and maybe we can end this discussion once and for all on if CRT is being taught in our schools. I understand that teachers will bring their political bias into the classroom, and I'm also asking that there be policy in place that no political bias will be presented by a teacher in the classroom. There isn't a student who should know which way their teacher leans by the way they teach. So I'm asking that that be done. As to the medical mandates, I'm also going to ask that you guys vote like Killingly did on a policy that says that we will not have vaccination clinics on our school grounds. Our school grounds are not medical facilities, and I think that is a thing that's best left in the hands of a doctor and a parent and a child. So that nobody has discomfort about whether or not they believe their child is going to be vaccinated against their will, which is a fear of many. I think just doing that, setting that policy in place right at the get-go would be good. I'd also like to address the fact, and I've told many of you this, but I'm going to tell the new board members. My daughter attends a school in town that has not had a mask mandate in place for the last 2 years. The first year, there were 0 cases of COVID in the school system related to the school system transmission. They did the mitigation strategies that were discussed by one of the parents here, and that was social distancing and hand washing and staying home when you're sick. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak from the public? Okay. Thank you all for your comments. Communication from board members? Anyone? Mr. Balashevsky?
Thank you. So A couple of things. No, it's fine. Pazuski.
All right,
That's,
yes,
that's right.
I'm
I'll
fine.
allow it. I'll allow
Okay,
it.
sorry.
A couple of things. So it was brought up a couple of times this evening about CRT. I had an opportunity to attend one of those indoctrination sessions in Hatton School. It is not, I know Mr. Vivian as well as I met Mr. Donaldson the other day for the first time. And if anything, it's an opportunity for kids to realize that, without having a conversation with each other, they're never going to be able to realize what other things make them up. And all it is it was an exercise to essentially help kids put the puzzle pieces together and to sort of look through any sort of like a stereotype they may have or what have you. If anything, it was a positive experience that the kids seemed to really enjoy. Again, I'm looking forward. I know that we do this for another 2 times for our 5th graders, and then we do a middle school program as well. I'm going on the record tonight to say that I will be attending those workshops. I'm interested to learn exactly what we're teaching kids, but as of right now, again, it's good, wholesome, positive stuff. It's nothing that's negative, nothing that shames anybody for who they are or anything like that. With that being said, that's not to say that certain teachers may not go about a different way and portray certain aspects of history in a negative light and not necessarily take into consideration the environment to which it occurs. I'm a big history fan. I love history, and that's the only way for us to ensure that we don't repeat it. When we teach history, we have to teach it in the environment to which it happened, period, the end. I think if, certainly with this board moving forward, I would hope that at the very least that, the most important teacher in a child's life is the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the siblings, right? And I think it's important that when concerns come up, that you have to let us know about it. The only way for us to help fix anything and to make sure that we're providing good, wholesome education is to let us know about it. And that's what you do these meetings, and I appreciate that wholeheartedly. Having students come up and speak their minds, again, regardless of where it aligns with my belief system or anything else, I give you very much credit. It takes a lot of guts to get up here, and it's important that this is how the system works. This is how it's supposed to work. Okay. As far as the masks, I know this is our first meeting as a new board. This isn't something that happened overnight. This isn't something that's going away anytime soon. And, it's an opportunity to, how do we do things better? How do we do things better in the classroom? I think the HEPA filtration systems are a great idea. I've seen it done in medical offices and things like that. I take my kids to the dentist, and that's what they do in their rooms. So, again, it all boils down to how do we do something like that, or again, based on where we are in this pandemic, it's an endemic now, but potatoes. There's a lot of things that we have to work through, and I think this is good to have this interaction, new knowledge coming forward, and something that we can use. So, I say it every meeting. Thank you to the parents. Thank you to everybody who takes the time and coming out here. You're being heard. It's just a matter of now, how do we navigate the system, right? So I very much appreciate it.
Anyone else? We've heard, let us get to work, okay? This is the first meeting of this board. I've been a chair for, an hour? Give us the opportunity to look into the things that you have told us. I made a commitment that, yes, I will look into things, and yes, we will discuss. We may come back with answers you don't like, but we'll get you answers, and we'll talk about it, okay? That's a commitment that I made for the board. So if no one else has anything, then we'll move on to the administration report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple informational items and then an update for the board. So we had the opportunity to attend the CAPS CABE annual conference this past Friday in Mystic. It was a good opportunity to talk about roles and responsibilities of new board members, relationships between superintendents and boards of education, some legislative updates. There is another session for newly elected board members and board leaders on December 8th in Rocky Hill. And it's sponsored by CABE, and I think it would be a nice opportunity for board members if it's a process that you want to learn more about. Today, the district held a dress down day to kick off a memorial scholarship for Mr. Richard Santinella. As we know, he recently passed, music teacher at DePaulo Middle School, and the goal of the scholarship is to award a scholarship to a former band student, a resident of Southington who has an interest in going into an education career. And next, elementary facilities project update. So now that we have a newly elected board and we begin talking about committees and assignments and whatnot, I think it's important that the elementary facilities project committee can start to reconvene again. A little bit of a curveball. The person who was the head guru at the state, if you will, resigned amid conflict with the governor, and he was in charge of the Office of Construction, and would be the person that was supposed to, 2 weeks prior to resigning, come to our schools and sign off on the buildings that we've identified that are aged out to a point that they need to be either renovated to new or new construction occur. So that's going to set us back in a timeline. It's my understanding right now that that Office of Construction Management is now being shifted back to the department that it was with prior. It was only a shift that occurred when this gentleman took over. So they're in a little bit of an influx transition right now. So we had a favorable initial meeting about the different facilities and about the prospects for being able to get a commitment from the state so that we may be able to start making some recommendations and do our due diligence as a board to the town council so that they could, as we talked about, authorize the town manager to go to bonding in the spring so that we potentially could have a referendum next fall to address the remaining 3 facilities. So it's just an update in the fact that things are a little bit in limbo right now, but I do think some of the pre-referendum work that was done over the summer, we certainly could reconvene as an elementary facilities project committee just to at least review and go over that work so that we can get ourselves up to speed on that. And lastly, I'm glad that so many people came tonight to speak, and I understand the concerns that were shared regarding the workshops that are occurring in the district. These are workshops that have occurred since 2017, long before George Floyd, long before CRT, long before the elections of 2020, long before this became a political issue. These are workshops that are good for kids, and they actually are meant to talk about how we bring ourselves together instead of dividing ourselves. So while there may be a narrative out there indicating otherwise, I invited the speakers personally tonight and gave them some time as part of my administrative update to provide our board firsthand information of what the workshops are about. I know 6 of you sat through the presentations back in 2019, so you were aware of this work. But I understood that there were 3 new board members, that this would be new information for you, and I wanted you to have that information as well. So I'm going to defer the remainder of my administrative report time to Mr. Vivian and Mr. Donaldson, and if you'd like to come up and you could provide a summary of your continued work with the district.
Good evening. My name is Paul Vivian. I'm actually a resident of Southington for 40 years this April. I had 3 sons who, thanks to the work of the board, successfully navigated the Southington schools and are now, I like to think, contributing members of our society. When I was listening to some of the comments were made, I kept thinking there must be some other program that's out there, because the basic essence of what we talk about with our students. And we're not just here. We've been doing this, Audley and myself. This is our 26th year. We celebrated our silver anniversary last year, and we've been in Bristol for 26 years. We've been in Coventry. We are here in Southington. We've done this nationally. We've been in Oxford and Milford. There are a number of communities. And we do that not by spreading hate, but by spreading acceptance. the basic tenet of what we talk about is that we are all different. Some of those differences you can see, some of those differences you cannot see, but we want to be able to accept one another. We use Audley and myself as an example when we're talking with students that he and I met each other 30 years ago. On the surface, we look different. You'll hear in a moment, we sound very different. We like different foods. We come from this world from very different places. But we have become friends because we have not let that get in the way of getting to know one another. And what we always tell to the students is we don't want anyone to be intimidated by someone who might look or sound different than they are. My sons went through the school district, and the one complaint that they had was not about teaching or anything like that. It did not prepare them enough to go. One of my sons went to a school in New York City. One of my sons is in Los Angeles. That the diversity was something that they had not experienced. And not that you can create that in some other place, but what you can do is to give people the tools on how to navigate. We are not about hate. We're certainly not about putting down white people or any other group. In fact, it's just the opposite. Our whole notion is that we want people to feel comfortable not only in themselves, but in others, in working with others, and that you can work with and be friends with someone who doesn't look like you or sound like you, and that's okay. So in terms of critical race theory, we don't discuss that at all. Critical, as was mentioned by the superintendent, we've been doing this for 26 years. Critical race theory was not a thing 26 years ago. And we have built our reputation, I believe, on talking about things that kids should be aware of. What are the stereotypes that all of us have that get in the way of getting to know people? Or we might prejudge people, where the word prejudice came from, by looking at someone based on a belief of something or an assumption that's not true or not accurate. What are those that are getting in the way of that? We also don't talk about just about race. I mean, our feeling about diversity is that diversity, there's all kinds of differences. We spend a whole part of our lesson, and I'm sure you had heard that, Joe, when we were there this week, talking about kids with dyslexia. We put a poem on the board that's written as a person who is dyslexic would see it, and the kids try to read it and they can't. And we share with them that having dyslexia has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's just how you see the page. It's a difference that you can't see. And how do we deal with someone who is having trouble reading? And it's not by laughing at them. It's not by making fun of them or shouting out the words. It's by accepting the fact that we all learn differently. So part of what we wanted to share with you this evening is we wanted to be able to tell you what we do. I don't know where folks have heard some of the things, but we don't put down people of any race. We don't make anyone feel guilty of any race. I mean, that flies in the face of what we believe in. We wouldn't be doing this for 26 years if people thought we were promoting some kind of an agenda. Our agenda is acceptance. Our agenda is one where we want people to feel comfortable, not only in who they are, but that their best friends could look different than they are, and that there's nothing wrong with that. So we're open to any of questions you have. I want to give Audley some time to talk so you can see how he sounds different than I do.
Good night, everyone. Paul and I have been to enough workshops across this country that left some folks feeling bad about themselves, feeling terrible, feeling blamed and shamed. And one of the commitments we have made 30 years ago when we met is that we would never embed anything that leads to shaming or blaming in what we do. I should not leave the room feeling worse than I did when I came in. I should feel better, because what is said in the room should provoke me, but provoke me to be a better person, not feeling like I've done the worst thing in the world. So the notion that what we do shames or blames anyone is just absolutely the farthest thing from our minds. 26 years ago, when Ann Clark was the superintendent in Bristol, met with us and said to us, could you sit and design a curriculum that was experiential, that was not heavily academic, but that promotes the notion of talking and having a conversation and not judgmental or negative. And when we designed this program, we designed it with enough room that allows for all of us to feel valued and provoked at the same time, but valued. And that's what we have done over the last 26 years. And I'm so proud of what we have done. You know, so Southington, one of your greatest gift is we did and I don't like to call it a workshop, a conversation, and a little third grader in the back of the class, in talking about the coolest people who live in Southington, this little third grader raised her hand and shouted, "The Albanians are here." It took every courage out of her to say that the Albanians are here and that they're part of you. And she wants to be part of you. And I've been raising 2 children in this country. And if I can get my daughter Jacqueline and my son Andre to appreciate the power of that, then I think we'll have done our work. It's been an honor. We didn't come here because there was an incident. And I commend your board because this was not an incident-based invitation. We didn't come here because there was any problem in the system. We came here because I really do think your superintendent is visionary and has the children at heart. And I'm proud to be a part of this activity and to be associated with it. And I'm just honored to be here. So if there's anything you'd like to ask me, I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you.
I would just add that we would not be a part of anything that puts any group down. I mean, I wouldn't want to associate with that, putting any group, any race, any ethnic group down. That's the furthest thing from the way our whole philosophy in what we do. So our notion, again, is to get back to the fact that we are all different, but we can all be friends. I mean, it's sort of as simple as that. I mean, I sound like Mr. Rogers. That's not the point. I'm not trying to be like that. But the idea is that we can all get along with one another. Even though we might be different, we might celebrate different holidays, we might like different foods, we might like different music, but that doesn't matter. I mean, our country is an amazing, amazing place made up of all these different groups. I want our kids, and when I say our, I mean mine and yours and everyone, and I love this community, to feel that this community embraces diversity and differences, that all are welcome, that no group is better than another, and no group should feel guilty. Audley's absolutely right. We made a pact when we started this that we would absolutely not have anyone feel guilty doing that. I've been to enough, believe me, I've been to enough workshops around cultural competence and diversity and equity where I felt as a white man being there that I had my tail between my legs. And we said, that's not our goal. We don't want anyone feeling guilty because of who they are. But we also want people to feel comfortable accepting people who are different than them and not to feel intimidated because they're different. And so that's what we're about. So we're open to questions. I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but I'm sorry.
No, it's the board. The board's going to ask questions. Do any board members have any questions?
Yes, Colleen,
Yeah.
I'd like to say something. Mr. Vivian, can I call you Paul?
Sure can.
Paul, just a quick little background here. So I work for Yale, okay? Have for several years now. This whole diversity, equity, inclusion workshop, which you two gentlemen are fortunately or unfortunately grouped in, I think for the benefit of the rest of the board and the public, can you share with us your view on equity? I think the word itself is a sticking point.
Sure.
And just to, the pink elephant in the room, so to speak, if you could just voice your thoughts on the word and how it plays into this whole conversation and the work that you do.
So equity for us, first of all, it's not something we talk about with fifth graders. It's not even a part of our lexicon. We don't discuss, that's above them. We start out with a basic that there are differences you can see and can't see. So we're on that sort of level. So, I can give you my personal feelings about equity is that all of us should have equal availability at opportunities, period. Not outcomes, opportunities. We all should have the same, all of us, no matter what you look like, what your background is, you should have the same available things to you as anyone else.
Any other questions?
Does anyone else have any questions? Anyone on the board? No? Yeah?
So I just had one question.
Sure.
Paul. So in the class that I attended, again, like it was more of the sort of trying to go through that experience of, you know, the things that you see, the things that you can't see.
Right.
At a couple of points, they were made where, again, like, you know, you described a situation that you were part of where you were sort of like upset, I guess, a little, I think when they, with, like
About biracial, yes,
right?
yes.
So I guess part of my question goes to, I guess, as students are, they go through more of the experiences, I guess in 7th grade, right? Do we touch on, again, like the whole being offended? You know, I come from the old school mentality of you sometimes do your best work in an environment of uncomfortable being, and again, like there is some truth to that. How do we do that as a school system, Mr. Medancy, or, you know, with you guys in what you're teaching? How do we help students deal with like getting into that uncomfortable zone and not like lashing out or being upset, or essentially being like, okay, it's okay for me to be upset, sort of like regroup and then sort of voice
To me, there's a difference between being uncomfortable and being safe. That we provide, I believe, a safe environment for kids to discuss things. And what I had shared with them was an incident where someone had made a comment, and how I said I told the kid I was personally offended by the comment because they were making fun of a particular group. And what we did was to show how we can have a conversation about that. So that's that uncomfortability you're talking about. But it's still a safe place. I think, and I hope you recognize this, that the kids in all of our workshops, not just in Southington too, and I think you could talk to folks in Bristol. I mean, they wouldn't have us there for 26 years if they didn't like what we were doing. What we do and try to accomplish there is create a safe place to talk about the differences that we all have, and to feel comfortable with the fact that you might be different from where you're from, or what you like to do, or what religion you speak, but we could still be friends. And that's the underlying issue of this. So we're not loftier than that. I mean, it's really basic. It's treating people like humans.
There are three basic principles to America's, but we would call this many things: cultural competence, cultural sensitivity, cultural democracy. We've called it a whole bunch of stuff. And we've seen words come and words go. The bottom line is, for us, there are three basic principles to this conversation that we're having. And that is that we all, from wherever you are, needs to listen some more to each other. You know, that's the bottom line. We need to spend time listening to each other. The other thing we need to do is observe and see, because not everything that appears the way it is the way it is. And then the third thing is that we all need to ask questions of each other. You know, we met a young lady a couple of days ago in a school who said, I'm a Muslim in the school. I wear a hijab. My classmates stare at me, but they've never asked me what my hijab means to me. And I'm so excited to tell and share with them, but they're gawking at me. And I know they're all looking at me, but I'm so anxious to talk to them about my hijab and the symbolism behind it. But no one has asked me. And part of the conversation we're having is, how do we get to a place where you're comfortable observing, asking questions, and listening? And to me, those are the basic principles that this country is having, the conversation this country is having right now. Does that make sense at all?
No, it definitely does. And again, I think it was part of your presentation back in 2019 where, you know, talking about bystanders and upstanders and things like that. You know, certainly at the very least the past year, even certain instances in our town where, again, everybody's quick to bring out a cell phone and record a situation rather than making that opportunity to intervene. And again, like, I think it's unfortunate. I hope that, you know, it's not that you two gentlemen something can fix or we as board members can fix. It takes a whole team. It takes parents. And like I said, it takes the whole community to sort of.
But if I could add just to that point, because maybe the board members don't know what you're talking about in terms of the upstander, bystander thing. Part of our thing that we talk about is bullying, and the people are oftentimes bullied because of the way they look or because of who they are. And you have the bully, you have the victim, and then you have bystanders. And what we try to promote is the notion of being an upstander. And you don't have to give a speech to be an upstander. You can be an upstander by walking away when someone is doing something that is really making fun of someone else. Don't give them audience. So we try to give kids the tools of how they can handle a situation, because oftentimes kids will say, And we've been to schools, not here, but we've been to schools where an incident has happened. And the first thing the kids will say to us, wasn't me, I didn't do anything. And the notion of not doing anything maybe is contributing to the behavior. And so we talk about what kids can do in a safe way so that they feel comfortable walking away from a situation, not giving audience to someone who's picking on someone else. Any other questions? Thank you for the opportunity of being able to share this with you.
Thank you. We
Thank
do
you.
appreciate
Thank you
you
both.
coming.
Thank you
so much. Yes, thank you. Anything else, Mr. Medancy?
That's it.
Okay. Next on our agenda, if I can find it, is the personnel report.
Move to approve the personnel report as submitted.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any town government communication from any board members? No. I appreciate that our newly named town council chair is here, Ms. Triano, Reverend Triano, I'm sorry. And Mr. Palmieri is here also. Thank you both for coming. May I share that you are now going to be holding the committee of the chairs again? So all, would you like to?
Yes, thank you, Ms. That will be established in the next month.
Okay.
And we will get together regularly. I want to say that one of the things.
Could you come over? I don't want people to miss this. Can you come over to the and speak? No, it's okay. No, I don't want people to miss what you're going to say. I don't want people to miss what you're going to say, people at home who are watching.
For the opportunity, Madam
Thank
Chairman.
you.
I just want to say that one of the things that we recognized in the past year or so is the lack of communication between boards. And as the chairman of the council, I think it's imperative that we keep the conversations going and that there would be a certain transparency between each of the boards. And so the committee of the chairs is one way of doing it. Also, workshops between boards, I think, is very, very important. And just an open communication. Feel free to call any of us, Chris or myself or anyone, if there's anything that we can help you with. Obviously, in January and early February, the budget is coming up. So we're going to try to work together very closely on that because we all need that. So thank you very much for the opportunity. If you have any questions, don't hesitate. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you. And with that, I can segue into, we've all been invited to a Board of Finance meeting on December the 8th to discuss next year's budget and the budget and the process. So all board members are invited to that. Okay.
Do you have a location? Is it going to be here or?
I'm going to, because it is a regular meeting for the Board of Finance, I'm going to say it's probably going to be in Town Hall then.
Yeah, she didn't put the location. I can follow up with you, though.
Town
I'll
hall.
follow up. I just
Yeah.
know she said December 8th, 7 o'clock, but usually it's in the old
Town
council
hall.
chambers.
Yeah.
Treasure.
So it is Town Hall, right?
We're going to find out. We'll get clarification to make sure it is Town Hall, but that's normally where the Board of Finance does meet. So, okay, moving right along to, I have too many papers here. I have to figure this out. Okay. New business, capital improvement plan, our first reading. Mr. Medancy, would you care to share?
Sure.
Okay.
So, as is typical, we really understand that this is, between now and the next meeting on December 9th, you may have a chance to review this. This is only a first reading, so there's no action tonight. And so it's a great opportunity between now and then to call either myself or our Director of Business and Finance, Mrs. Mellett, with any questions you may have, whether either the process of how it's developed or any questions about any particular items that are within it. And then for the next meeting, we certainly, one of the things we do, if you have a question, we do share the answer with all board members, just so that, repeat questions don't get asked. It's just easier that way in terms of the flow of communication.
Any questions? Okay, it's just the first read. Now I am going to need a motion for executive session. Hi, Mr. Darrenowski.
My 31st year of doing this. Yes, move to go into executive session excluding the public and the press for this, for discussing of student matters. Upon conclusion, going back into open session.
Second?
All in favor?
All right.